In the navies of the world, the most coveted ship is undoubtedly the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier has proven time and time again that battles at sea can be won or lost simply by the well-played use of naval air power. The unquestioned leader in this class stands the United States Navy. Just the U.S. Navy alone make up half of the active aircraft carriers in the world. Not only are they the most numerous, but they are also the biggest and most mission-capable. At 100,000 tons, a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier can bring more firepower to bear than the full air forces of many nations around the world. The new Gerald Ford class is expected to continue this trend for the U.S. Navy. But for the other navies of the world, just having one flat top is enough to be a source of pride and prestige. Just having an aircraft carrier puts you in a very exclusive club that only so many countries have joined. France, Great Britain, Russia, and even China are in an even more exclusive club with the United States, the ability to make your own aircraft carrier. In 2021, you can add yet another name to the list of countries that can produce their own aircraft carrier: the Indian Navy with the INS Vikrant. But if you remember a previous video about the Admiral Kuznetsov, I talked about another aircraft carrier that had been bought by the Indian Navy, the INS Vikramaditiya. In 1996, the Russian Federation, dealing with severe budget cuts, decided to take the steps to deactivate one of their current aircraft carriers. This decision caught the attention of the Indian Navy, who was in the need to replace their much older INS Vikrant, a ship that was once the HMS Hermes, a Centaur-class carrier that had served during the Falklands campaign before being sold to India in 1986. This carrier, being designed and built in the 1960s, was reaching the end of its life cycle. With the immediate need for an aircraft carrier looming on the horizon, India jumped at the chance to buy the Russian flat top. If any of you are familiar with the fun of purchasing a used car, imagine trying to do something like that for an aircraft carrier. The Russians gave a great deal. The ship would be free, but India would be required to pay for $800 million in upgrades, along with an additional $1 billion for the fighter aircraft. What did the Indian Navy buy? A carrier that was currently named the Admiral Gorshkov, formerly called the Baku. This was the last of the hybrid cruiser carriers known as the Kiev class. The Kiev class was the first major attempt by the Soviet Navy to put fixed-wing aircraft to sea and have naval aviation join their fleet. But the Indian Navy didn't want the carrier in the form of the old Kiev class. They wanted the carrier rebuilt into a Stobar carrier. What is a Stobar carrier? I'm glad you asked. Stobar stands for Short Takeoff but Arrested Recovery. This allows conventional fixed-wing aircraft to be able to take off using a ski jump ramp and then land with arresting equipment. This means using aircraft like the Yak-38 Forger or the Sea Harrier is not necessary. It was as if India was getting Bob Vila to remodel their carrier for an episode of This Old House. Buying aircraft carriers secondhand is not a new thing for India. The history of their navy with aircraft carriers has nothing but carriers purchased from Great Britain. This one, however, turned into a failing that they are still dealing with to this day. The start began when the shipyards started claiming price overruns for the work to be done. This started to increase the cost of the refitting of the ship and rebuilding it to the new specifications. The pressure for India to pay the new prices, which had more than tripled, also included an extortion scheme against an Indian Navy officer by the Russian Federation to pressure the Indian government to cooperate. In 2004, India finally agreed to purchase the carrier, with the new cost for the construction at $2.35 billion, down from the almost $3 billion the Russians were demanding. Okay, so India bought their carrier for triple the cost. The problems are over. Not even close. The shipyard responsible for the construction took an additional 8 years to finish the refit and get the ship onto the water for sea trials. Then another year before the carrier had completed all sea and air trials and was accepted into the Indian Navy fleet. This was completed in 2014. Soon after, the carrier sailed to India, where the first Indian pilots in MiG-29K aircraft became certified in carrier operations. I hear you all saying, wow, this is a short video for this channel. The carrier must have just had a hard time being built and that's all. If that was all it was, then it wouldn't be much of a combat ineffective video. Where to begin with this major mistake? Let us begin with the carrier itself. The Kiev class were never meant to be full-size carriers, and even with the modifications, this presents a problem for the Indian Navy. This means the carrier is very limited for space, and that means they needed to pick a small aircraft that could fit into the hangar deck of the carrier. For this, they picked the MiG-29K, a navalized version of the MiG-29 Fulcrum. Even the Russian Navy is using less of the naval Fulcrum on the Admiral Kuznetsov and replacing them with the much larger and much more capable Su-33, the naval version of the Su-27 Flanker. The reason for this is the Su-33 is much more advanced and much more capable of an aircraft than the MiG-29, especially the MiG-29K. To add to the issues, this carrier was really meant to be just a cheap way to bridge the gap between the time when their old carrier was set to be decommissioned and when their own indigenous carrier was built and ready to be part of the fleet. To top it all off, the aircraft they have chosen for the Vikramaditiya is already at a disadvantage against the JF-17, the newest fighter aircraft of the Pakistani Air Force. And to add yet another insult to injury, the indigenous fighter that India has now started to build for their carriers is not finished with carrier trials itself, and there are rumors that it is overweight for the specifications of the carrier. So let's recap here on how many ways this has failed. The Indian Navy bought a bargain basement aircraft carrier. They spent years fighting with the Russians, who scammed them and almost tripled the costs. It took them over 8 years to finally build the carrier and get it to India. The jet they decided to buy for it is less capable than their main adversary's newest fighter, and the newest fighter that they are making on their own is not built to the correct specifications and has not finished carrier testing. Will India iron out the problems with the Vikramaditiya? Well, not without spending much more money than they intended to. The ship underwent another refit in 2016 and is now completing sea trials to return to the fleet. Hopefully by the time they figure out all the problems, their first indigenous carrier, the INS Vikrant, will be sailing and be ready for combat. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. That subscribe button down there, and you know you want to click it. Be sure to give this the thumbs up and click the notification bell to be alerted of new content. You know that you like the videos here, but you want to be able to get that video earlier than everybody else on YouTube. Then head on over to our Patreon and become a member. Not only will you get access to our videos earlier than their YouTube release, but you will also get access to behind the scenes content, a special Discord channel, and if you pick general level, you also get some cool merch sent your way as a personal thank you for supporting all the great content we have here. Link in the description below. Head on over to our website at www.combatineffective.com. It has links to our social media, our latest videos, and a link to our Patreon. Special thanks goes to General Richie and Sergio Suarez. We also wish to thank Daniel Frisco Fox Eastvedt for his upgrade from Sergeant to Captain level.
We are combat ineffective, you understand?